We're going to look at the checkbox. It's deceptively simple, but it's also got a lot of customization. For example, it can be a normal checkbox. It can be not checkable. You notice how I'm clicking it and nothing's happening. It can be tri-state, meaning it can have multiple states. It can be exclusive, so once you check it, you really can't uncheck it manually. Or it can repeat, which is a little bit hard to explain, but basically if you click and hold down on it, it repeats. And we can actually reset them all. So let's build this little application and see what this takes. We're going to go into Design View. We're going to go to Imports, Qt Quick Controls. And first things first, I want to take a row. I'm going to drag and drop that row. I'm going to go over to my layout here, and I'm going to fill the entire parent, and I'm actually going to Control and scale out so we can see that whole little window. Now from here, we're going to grab a column, drag and drop right into that row. This column, we want it to be a special size. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say I want this to be 150 by 400 and let's say a spacing of 10. I want to space those out a little bit. Let's go ahead and find some checkboxes here. You'll notice there's a checkbox and a check delegate. The difference here is subtle, but basically when you see the word delegate in QML, think of model view programming. It's much more advanced than where we are right now. Basically, it takes a model or a data set, if you will, and you can make a view, and that view can be different ways of looking at that data. So when you see delegate, that's what you should think of. We're just going to use the normal checkbox. I'm going to drag and drop, and we need bunches of these. And when I say bunches, we really need about 5 of them. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One thing to note is you see in blue, that's what's selected. This is one of the frustrating little gotchas here. We've been dragging and dropping, but it's multi-selection. So if I drag and go, I want to do that last one, and we instantly flip over here, we're actually not even grabbing that last one. Let's go over to Navigator again. This is the last one right here. So I'd have to actually manually click, bang, there it is. Now it no longer says multi-select. If you wanted to multi-select, you simply hold down the Shift key and it'll select continuous, or you can hold down the Control key and do one at a time. Whenever you see multi-selection, you're modifying the properties of more than just one item. Be very careful about doing that. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in. Remember to zoom in, you hold Control, middle mouse, and I'm just going to type the names. Normal, and this one is going to be not checkable. And as I type and hit enter, it appears over here. You could also select it here. You could select it over in the navigator as well, and then type it over here if you wanted to. So this one will be tri-state. Hit enter. Notice how it updates. There's a lot of debate over what's the correct way to do that. It really doesn't matter. It all does the same thing. So if somebody says, oh no, you should be double clicking, no, it doesn't matter. You can select it in the navigator and type it over here. Either way, does not matter one bit. So let's go ahead and let's call this exclusive. And exclusivity is a little bit hard to explain, but basically once you do it, it's exclusively checked, and there's a lot more that I'm kind of skipping over, but think of it in those terms. And then repeat, which basically once you click and hold, it's going to repeat and fire off that event in the background over and over again. They pretty much line up, so you can see repeat and then repeat. Suddenly true. Exclusive, exclusive. Tri-state. No tri-state. So this is another little gotcha here. Not all the properties are easily findable. For example, tri-state's actually right here. Boy, that gets frustrating. So why is tri-state up here? Because we're talking about the check state, where these are part of the abstract buttons. So this goes into inheritance. The checkbox itself actually inherits from an abstract button, but adds some extra goodness on top of it. So if you're hunting and pecking, you're trying to figure out, think in terms of inheritance. If you just simply can't find it, you can always flip right into the editor and just type it out. All right, not checkable. We're going to simply uncheck checkable. And then normal, we're just going to leave it as is. And let's go ahead and find a button. And let's go ahead and drag this to our column. And it puts it right here. And I'm going to say reset. And so what that reset is going to do is it's actually going to flip all these back to their normal state. Let's go ahead and collapse that. I'm going to take another column. And we're going to drag it right here. Now I'm going to take this column that we just added, ta-da, and we're going to move that so that it is the same width and height. And I'm going to scale out a little bit here. This is a bit of the problem. When we click it, there's no little, I call them little grab handles. There's no little grab handles, so I can't just drag it. And that is one of the frustrating little bugs in this editor. As good as this editor is, sometimes it gets very confused. Remember, it's a child of the row, which takes the entire parent. You can see those little grab handles. Ta-da! But when we go, here's our first one, and here's our second one. So how do we fix this? Well, we can either go into the text editor, or we can actually do it manually. So I'm going to say width is, let's say, I'm just going to guess 400. Oh, I was close. We could do 475. Almost spot on. What we could also do is we could say 15, just any number. Go here, set binding, and then we can actually do a bit of code. So we can say it is the parent width minus, and we want the X position. Notice how now suddenly, wham, it's over there. And we can do the same thing with height. We can set a binding, and we can just say, whoops, my mouse wants to cooperate here. We can do it. Set binding. I think I set it on the wrong one. I did. All right. Let's go back to the row here. Yeah, I'm going to reset that because I don't want that binding. Make sure we didn't screw up our layout here. There, and voila. Save and run. Graphically, it looks pretty good. We're going to put a label right in the center here. Grab that, drag, drop. Now you may be wondering, why did we even add these column here if we just wanted to add a label? Couldn't we have just added a label? We could have, but I want to take this label here. Notice how it selects it in the navigator. Again, doesn't matter which way you select it. And I want to actually center this in the parent. So I'm centering it in the column. If I hadn't put it in the column, its center would actually be over here somewhere, and I'd have to play around with offsets to get it dead center. And, well, we'd be here a while watching me play around with the interface. So I want to say for the text status here, and I'm going to boldface that, and let's make this a 35 point, just something a little bigger. All right, zoom in a little bit. Again, control middle mouse, that's how we zoom in and out. And we want to play around with these a little bit. So we have a couple ways of doing this. Either A, we can use the connections editor, or we can do it via code. There's no wrong way of doing it. Some people prefer to do it in the connections editor. Some people prefer to do it purely by code. You'll see me do a mixture of both just because I want to show you, hey, it doesn't matter which way you do it. So for example, I'm going to take this button, click here, bang, on clicked, flip into the text editor, and I'm going to actually scale that here just so I get a little bit of real estate. And I really don't like this because it's so crowded. I'll actually flip into the full editor, and now we can play around with this. So got our connection, targets the button, and here we're going to say the checkbox, and we want check state, and we say cute, and then we want unchecked. And through the magic of copy and paste, I know I have 5 boxes. They're named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually 1, 2, 3, 4 with checkboxes as normal. So I'm going to say 1, grab this, 2, 3, 4. So now we have our 5 boxes. Save, run, and let's play around with this. We can now reset them. But remember in our example, we had those different connections. So as you click that checkbox, something special would happen here. Let's go ahead and make another connections. I'm going to say target, and here we're going to say checkbox, and on clicked. It's not actually popping up. Sometimes IntelliSense does not help us, and this can be a little frustrating when this happens. Just because it's not helping us doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Here we're going to say label.text, and I'm going to say checkbox equals, and then we're going to add in the target dot check state. That is frustrating. So what is going on here? Why isn't IntelliSense helping us out? Because it's getting very confused by what it's supposed to be doing. That's the short explanation. The long explanation is it's being pretty lazy. It's saying, okay, I know there's a target, I know it's an object of some kind, but I don't know specifically this is a checkbox, and it's not going out and doing type checking and try to figure that out. I think in future versions of Qt and QML, Qt 6 for example, that's right around the corner, that type checking will take place so that you'll have a better IntelliSense experience. So really all we're saying is take this target, which is some object, in this case the checkbox, this guy up here, and then on clicked, we're going to do a bit of JavaScript here. We're saying take the label's text, make it checkbox equals plus, and then the target, check state. We can do this because it doesn't really care what type it is. So it's all going to happen in the background. Let's save and run and test this out. So as we go here, we can now toggle that state. And we're just going to do this for every single checkbox we have. Change the target. Notice how because we're using target, we don't have to have checkbox, checkbox 1, checkbox 2, We just have to have that specific target. Save and run, and let's test this out. So we have a normal checkbox. We have a not checkable. We have a try state. Notice how that's a 1. Now it's a 2, 0. We have an exclusive, so we can check it, but can't manually uncheck it. And repeat. And as I hold the mouse down, what's happening in the background is that connections getting fired off over and over and over again. And I can, of course, reset them.